from the Ramakrishna Order of monks. I belong to an organization called the Ramakrishna Mutt and Ramakrishna Mission, and here it is known as the Vedanta Centre. And I live in Springfield Lakes in Queensland, and I look after a center of multi-faith center wherein we have different activities about Hinduism as well as the other religions. In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the First Nations people who have walked and cared for this land for thousands of years. We acknowledge their descendants who maintain their spiritual connection with this land and the traditions passed down from generation to generation. We thank them for sharing their cultures, spiritualities, and ways of living with the land in this place we all now call home. We pay respects to elders past, present, and emerging. May we continue to walk gently and respectfully towards with each other. I represent one of the oldest religious traditions of the world called Hinduism. Hinduism does not have a founder, and therefore it is known as the Sanatana Dharma, meaning it is the ancient religion. The name Hindu came much later, but the Sanatana Dharma was the original name for Hinduism. And it is the third largest religion in the world, having adherents of more than 1 billion in number. And most of them, of course, live in India and the Indian subcontinent. The religion basically talks about divinity as the whole, the one being has become many. The divine has become many, and that entity is known as Brahman, that which is all expansive. As such, we are all different parts of that one whole. And this has been expressed in a wonderful manner in one of the Vedic verses. Vedas are the fund of knowledge of the people, of the Hindus. And in this Vedic literature, we find a beautiful expression, Vasudha eva kutumbakam, that is, the whole universe is your family, because we are all coming from one source that is called the divine. And Vedanta or Hinduism recognizes that each soul is potentially divine. There is that potentiality within every one of us to become one with the divine. And the goal of life is not mere pleasures, it is to become one with the divine. How to go about it? Do it with either work. Consider each act of work that you do as a worship to the divine, or through worship, or through psychic control, or through the path of knowledge or of meditation. So these are the 4 recommended paths in Hinduism, and from Hinduism sprang 3 great religions: the Buddhism, the Sikhism, and the Jainism. While Buddhism and Sikhism have their unique traditions and cultural aspects, Jainism almost amalgamated with Hinduism, and it became a part of Hinduism, yet having its own doctrine. But all these 3 great religions, they recognize one great fact, that the soul is essentially divine. And there are 3 basic tenets that all these 3 great religions follow. That is the oneness of existence, and secondly the theory of karma, and then the theory of reincarnation or rebirth. These are the 3 great tenets that Hinduism follows. Bhagavad Gita is one scripture which gives us a very good idea about death and dying. In the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna, the Lord, he enumerates this philosophy of death and dying. There he says that the death is only of the body and not of the self. The self is ever free, but the death is only of the body, and therefore education is needed to identify this inherent soul that is within every one of us. It further says the soul cannot be cut by the sword, it cannot be burned, or it cannot be wetted by water or dried by air. Therefore, this soul is inherent in every one of us. Hinduism also talks about a future life. It says that if you have not been able to exhaust all of your wishes or your desires in this life, you will need to be born again in order to exhaust those desires and fulfill those desires. This is in short the idea of karma, the rebirth. And then there is the idea of karma. There are three types of karma. One is that which has been in store for working out in later life, and there is the second one which has started acting in this very life, prarabdha, and then there is the other one where whatever you do today, it will come to use later. Therefore, a Hindu is asked to be virtuous, is asked to be kind to all beings, so that one does not get such a birth that he or she will have to suffer later on due to one's own past actions. Depending on one's nature, one takes to spiritual activities like the yoga of knowledge, devotion, or of action. One of the main tenets of Hinduism is prayer. Prayer is the talking of the little self with the universal soul or the divine. So, either you can be a believer in God or not a believer in God, yet you can pray that you be guided, that you be helped in your spiritual life. Coming to death or life itself, Hinduism believes that the body which has been given to us by nature has the inborn capacity to heal, and what we do is we try to heal it with a positive mental attitude. Death is born along with our birth. Every moment we live, we are getting closer and closer to death. Therefore, the followers of Hinduism are asked not to grieve too much. There is a process of grieving for about 11 or 13 days, but they are asked not to grieve much, rather submit oneself to the will of the divine and pray for that soul to have a better birth in the next life. So, this is in short the tenets of Hinduism. Coming to spirituality and hospitalization or palliative care, Hinduism recognizes that this human birth is a vehicle to become one with God. After going through several births in many types of living organisms, human birth is considered to be one of the last births that a soul has to endure. But ultimately the body is a vehicle, and when it needs to be repaired, it has to go to the workshop, that is to the hospital. So, hospital care etc. is allowed in Hinduism. Hinduism or Hindu family is a very close knit family, and traditionally children are supposed to look after their aged parents. But with the changing scenarios today, it is accepted that palliative care may be necessary. However, Hinduism also believes that extending life, prolonging life is only prolonging suffering in terminal cases. Therefore, a very smooth transition is recommended, and the family makes sure that the person who is dying dies in a peaceful environment full of the thoughts of the divine. Specifically in relation to palliative care, we need to observe that there is this strong theory of karma. We are born with a certain purpose, and as soon as this purpose is fulfilled, the body will not stay for longer. The reason for us taking birth is our own past actions or even the present actions. If they were good, if the past actions were good, then they get a perfect body. But if this person has hurt others in the past excessively, that person will get a body which may have to undergo lot of suffering. So this is in short the framework that a person of the Hindu tradition uses to understand this medical issue. That is, if I have some suffering, it is because of my past actions and I need to pay for that. The taxes must be paid, otherwise we will not be let away scot-free. We have to note also that everyone has a destiny. We come alone and we go back alone. Therefore, resignation to God's will is a very fundamental teaching in Hinduism. Whatever happens is thy will, O Lord. That is the attitude that a Hindu possesses. At the same time, it is not reasonable to expect that our children follow whatever is told by our parents or by the parents, because the child's inborn tendencies will lead him or her to follow a unique path. Therefore, we say respect the views of the child, or to the child we say respect the views of your elders. Respect is an inherent quality for a Hindu child or even an adult Hindu. So therefore, this accepting everyone as he or she is fundamental in Hindu religion. The second lesson that we learn from Hindu religion is that we have to learn to identify ourselves with all of humanity. No one is a stranger. We all belong to that one God. Call him father or mother or whatever name you give, but identify yourself with that divine being. In case of death, Hinduism says you still live through others, just as the donated organs live in the donee. In the same way, a person lives in others through his or her thoughts and actions. Hinduism also believes that donating anything, even it be one's own organ, is considered a great virtue. It says that you will live through others when you are gone by making that donation of your organ. Therefore, it is a great virtue to donate one's own body or one's own organs to others. After death, it is said that one should go through the grieving process. There are 10 or 11 or 13 days ceremonies, and then there is a monthly ceremony, after that an annual ceremony. But beyond that, a Hindu is asked not to grieve excessively, because one who has come from above will go back above or to one's own destiny. While we are caring for the dying, we need to keep in mind a few facts. The first thing is that we need to make the atmosphere around the dying person peaceful as is possible. And we should encourage people to think thoughts about the divine, or the names of the divine is also chanted when a person is dying, or scriptures like the Bhagavad Gita is recited to strengthen the person's mind and to provide comfort and ease to the dying. And generally religious chantings is done before and after death, which is done continuously by either the family or the friends or the priest. Therefore, this must be facilitated by the caregivers when you are giving care to a Hindu. The second thing is that various items like the sandalwood paste or holy ash or vermilion, incense, candle, symbols or pictures, and then fresh flowers, prayer beads, etc., are allowed to be kept near the dying person. That gives a sense of security to a dying person. Generally, water from a holy river, mainly the Ganges river, is kept in a container next to the dying person, and as soon as the person is dying or is about to die, or even after death, a few drops of that holy water is poured into the mouth of the dying person, so that the person's whole being becomes purified, becomes sacred before leaving this world. There are lots of books on near death and after death experience, which suggest that the departed soul still lingers, still stays and understands everything that is going on. That is why excessive grieving is not preferred, or it is not recommended by Hindus. It is said that sometimes, instructed by some higher power, the soul may return to the body also. Therefore, those good thoughts have to be preserved around the body. And Hindus generally cremate the bodies. In some cases, especially the infants and all that, they are buried as well. But generally, Hindus cremate the bodies because the death is not of the soul, but only of this body, which is made of the 5 elements, and it goes back into the 5 elements. Hinduism does not place any strict diet for people, except that since cow is considered a sacred animal, beef is generally not eaten by Hindus. Therefore, whenever you offer any food, try to avoid beef. If not all Hindus are vegetarians, they cannot be vegetarians, but there are certain groups or certain castes in Hinduism, like the higher caste, upper caste, Brahmins and others, who do not generally eat any non-vegetarian food, including eggs. So, it is just that you find the other animal or every animal also as sacred, and therefore killing any animal it amounts to disrespecting the divine. Having said that, Hinduism has from in the past the tradition of eating meat, but in very limited quantities. A Hindu generally offers whatever he eats or drinks to the divine first and then takes it, so that one does not become too greedy by consuming too much. The caste system, I will explain the caste system. Hinduism recognizes these 4 castes based on their profession. Originally, that was the idea. Sri Krishna talks about it in the Bhagavad Gita. The first caste, or the uppermost one, are the teacher caste or the priest caste, who are known as the Brahmins. One who is thinking of Brahman all the time, Brahman is the supreme reality, is known as a Brahmin. And then comes the next caste, Kshatriya, the warrior caste, one who has to protect the boundaries of the nation, so they are known as Kshatriyas. And then the third are known as the business people, the Vaishyas. They have to go out, they are the ones who go out and do business and bring wealth to the country. And the fourth are known as the Shudras. Shudra is not a degrading word. Shudra means one who performs all the physical actions that are necessary to keep the community clean and neat and also in order. So these are the 4 castes. That is the original thought that was there behind the caste system. Later it degraded, that is a different idea altogether, whenever power is given in the hands of a few, they generally corrupt the whole system itself. But the original idea is that the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, they belong to the different vocations in life. When you see a person is dying and they have relatives around him or her, you need to make sure that you give some time for the family to be with the person alone. Just leave them alone for a little while and let them grieve or let them pray, offer their prayers, and then you can talk to them and tell them that the person who has passed away is a wonderful person. You talk everything positive about the person so that their grief becomes lessened, and then you offer them all the conveniences that has to be given, like lighting the lamp near the bed or lighting an incense there or putting on the vermilion or other other symbols on the face or the head of the dying, and tell them that they are free to look after their near and dear ones who has passed away. Allow them some time before you just remove them from the facility. If a person has died out of natural causes, or if a person has become disabled due to natural causes or dies out of natural causes, it is traditionally said that travel of that person from the present body to another sphere is smooth. That means a destiny has already been decided for such person to go to the place that he or she has to go, the soul has to go there. Whereas in the case of a person who has an accidental death, it may be suicide or some road accident or any other kind of accident, it is said that the soul suffers a lot because the time has not come for the soul to leave. It has not worked out its karmas or its desires in the present body, yet by accident the life has been taken away. So the soul generally, it remains in a suspended state for quite some time, and people feel the presence of the soul hovering around their family for some time. This is a real fact which has been corroborated by many people in the world. Yes. When a person is dead, the person's body is still considered a sacred one, because the person is departing to a very higher sphere to another place wherein he or she will live in peace. Therefore, great respect has to be shown while handling the body of the dead. This has been discussed by Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, wherein Sri Krishna asks Arjuna, look here, you do your duty, you perform your action as you need to do. In the course of your action, if you hurt somebody or you cause somebody's death, it is not your fault because you are doing your action. You are not responsible for it in the absolute manner. Yes, you could have been a little more careful, there is no doubt, but do not think that you have been responsible for such a person's death. The death has been decided and the person has to go for some reason or the other, and we always cite the law of karma for that the person had done something in the past for which he had to experience this kind of a traumatic death. Therefore, with that we try to console the person who feels very guilty about it. The Hindu culture believes in respecting the wishes of the elders. Always the eldest in the family is given the first right to express his or her opinion. If a grandmother or a grandfather is in the family, generally the wishes of the grandparent is considered first, and if that person is absent, then the eldest in the family generally takes the decision and it is accepted by the whole family. So, the decision making is in the hands of the eldest in the family. I very sincerely want to express our gratitude and thanks to all the carers and the medical staff who care for the sick and to the disease. We have a saying in Hinduism, Vaidyo Narayana Harihi. That means the person who cares is indeed the divine himself or herself. The divine himself or herself comes in the garb of a doctor or a nurse or a carer and looks after our bodies. Therefore, to all of you who are caring for the dying and the dead, I convey from the bottom of my heart the gratitude of all Hindus. Thank you very, very much. Thank you.